Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then because tonight we're gonna have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia. Jerk Palace.
Our freedom and security are made possible through the service and sacrifice of our military and first responders. The Gary Sinise Foundation provides many outreach programs supporting these brave men and women. Join us. Donate at GarySiniseFoundation.org.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then because tonight we're gonna have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia. Jerk Palace.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through. Like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Don't just sing the song.
I'm living my best life.
Do it. And we're here to help with Smart Talk. From programs like this, your nation's urban station. Online on SSNATL.com.
And if you're just tuning in, we are talking about the jobs numbers here on Financial Renaissance with the M's. Let me know your thoughts on the topics. You can go ahead and comment in the comment section on our Facebook page at Sensation Station Network. And if you're not on Facebook, you can find us on SSNATL.com or SensationStationNetwork.com. And you can even join in on the conversation. If you are an auntie and you've got that old school two-way Sky pager and you want to take part in the conversation, you too can text us at 678-613-5857. But let's jump into these job numbers and figure out what in the heck happened. It's like we took this half-court shot and we just like totally bricked. The February jobs report numbers came out, and it's like we just got Rochambeau'd as far as our economic outlook is concerned. You know, our global economy kind of grinded to a halt, and things have been slowing down for a while now. and the current, trade tensions between our country and China. And so typically the jobs numbers is a bright spot for the economists to talk about. And, the jobs numbers are great. X number of jobs have been created this month. And, so it's just this telltale sign that's supposed to give us some positive light or positive outlook on the economy, even though everything that we're seeing and feeling and viewing is kind of telling us the opposite. So February's numbers really kind of put things to a halt. So the jobs numbers is kind of a telltale sign for us to show us that the economy is weakening and that things are going to be slowing down. And how do you have to, when you hear about the jobs numbers and the numbers of jobs that were created, you have to think about how it's going to impact you. If our economy slows down and there's not a lot of growth, how is that going to impact my career? How is that going to impact my way of life? How is that going to impact our country? And the GDP of our country is slated to be, we're going to have our 13th consecutive year of sub 3% growth. So we're waiting on revised numbers. I think those numbers are going to come out at the end of March, but the revised numbers for 2018 are going to come out. And, since the Obama administration, our government really has been able to brag about job numbers and how well things are going. But, they also want to talk about wages and how well wages are doing, but they're not really, considering inflation into these numbers. And so the Labor Department anticipated that the number of jobs that would have been created for the month of February was going to be 180,000 new jobs. And that's, again, what our economy was supposed to create, 180,000 new jobs. Well, the results are in, and, we didn't even come close. The number of new jobs that was created in February was 20,000 jobs. So we are 140,000 jobs short. So we're not even in the race right now. We're no longer in the race. The jobs numbers, the unemployment numbers are skewed based on the jobs that, you've got people who are underemployed that are willing to take whatever they can to survive. So think about people who have gotten laid off. They may have made, let's say, $50,000. They get laid off, their position is eliminated, and then they go out and they find another full-time job, but that full-time job is only paying $25,000. Yes, they're employed, but they're underemployed because they're not making what they were used to making. So what happened with the jobs numbers? Like, why did we go from anticipating, 180,000 jobs and then, we end up with 20,000? That's a gross miscalculation. Well, the government shutdown that happened at the end of last year really threw a monkey wrench in the jobs, in the job creation. The job shutdown, or the government shutdown, postponed hiring within the government sector, and it also postponed hiring in the private sector because that E-Verify, to make sure that you're legal, you got your papers to work in the country, the E-Verify system was also shut down. Another factor that really helped, or that kind of slowed down our jobs, was our weather. We've been talking about climate change, and people were really getting climate change and weather confused. The weather in our country has caused a lot of construction jobs to just disappear. So the construction industry shed about 31,000 jobs last month because of the weather. Another sector that's being hit in our country right now is rural America. Once you go outside of the cities, drive outside of any major city, about an hour or two, and you're going to be in rural America. And these areas are also struggling with adding new jobs. And here's my suggestion: if you're in a place with nice dirt and you've got a good climate, start looking at that cannabis and industrial hemp segments of agriculture. I mean, it's just something to think about. It's something that's going to be new, something that's going to be happening. Other areas that might not be doing so well right now based on the jobs numbers are going to be, of course, construction, mining, and retail. And we have to think about which Americans are feeling the brunt of the job reports numbers. So those are going to be people who work in manufacturing and factories. The factory jobs has been trending lower since the onset of our trade feud with China. Another group of Americans that are being hurt by the jobs numbers as well are our American teenagers. They're falling into the unemployment rate as well. And remember, there are some families that need their teenagers to contribute to the household in order to make ends meet. And last month, teenage unemployment was up to 13.4%. And then another group, and the group that usually feels it the worst, are African Americans. They're also feeling the brunt of this economic contraction. African American unemployment is up to 7.2%, and for African American men, we're up from 5.8% in November. So on the way, we're going to dig into jobs that are going to be disappearing over the next 10 to 20 years.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then because tonight we're gonna have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia.
Jerk Palace. Already coaching? Everybody's a coach these days. I get it. Life coach, relationship coach, financial coach. But you want to be a coach with integrity. So get certified and do it the right way. Or add coaching to the work that you already do. Join a cohort or take classes at your own pace. We have knowledgeable instructors. We have a life-changing curriculum. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com to learn more.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
If you have the questions, we have the answers.
All right.
Go to ssnatl.com and click on the Contact tab. As much as you like. We're the nation's urban station. Online. ssnatl.com.
And we are back. We are about to explore careers that are going to be disappearing. I want to say hello to Anthony Fowler. We see you on Facebook. Thank you guys for liking and joining in on the conversation. It makes us feel good. So yeah, let's talk about some jobs that are going to be disappearing, right? So let's think back to baseball. Baseball is America's pastime. And back in the day, you know, I'm originally from New York. I remember the old Yankee Stadium. As a matter of fact, I remember when they knocked it down. The old baseball stadiums used to have a person behind the scoreboard that would just kind of change the numbers, right? And those jobs disappeared with the onset of digital, right? So the new digitized scoreboards, that kind of got rid of that job. You ever go to a building and have an elevator operator, push a button for you? Not at like State Farm Arena or any place like that. Those people are just trying to stop y'all from sneaking into the box seating. But like a legit elevator operator. Many of us, possibly our grandfathers were, elevator operators or doormen, things like that. And those jobs right now are ancient history. And so there are a new batch of jobs that are just going to disappear because of the onset of technology and other things. So one of the jobs that we're going to see disappear is going to be lumberjacking. I don't personally know any lumberjacks, but our planet, as I just mentioned, we've gone digital, and there's also a consequence for us going green. And one of those consequences is that industries that, rely on the production of paper and wood, there's, quite frankly, less of a demand for paper nowadays. And the other day I was watching TV and I saw a piece on 3D printing. And 3D printers are going to be able to produce things like furniture and houses. So, wood isn't going to be in as great of a demand as it once was. So, the paper industry is going to, it's also going to be hit. So if you're in that industry, it's time for you to start thinking about next steps. People in the transportation industry, dispatchers, back in the day, dispatching and trying to figure out where all the buses are, where all the vans are, was a real complicated thing. And automation has taken that over. There's apps. There are, so many things to make, dispatching, which was, again, at some point very complicated. Now it's not as complicated and it's easier to navigate with less overhead. Travel agents. Now, I didn't realize that there were still travel agents in the country, really. Especially given the advent of like the discount sites and the loyalty reward stuff that you can get with like, the hotels and the airlines and the credit card industry. But in the year 2000, there was about 125,000 travel agents in the United States. By 4 years later, in 2004, that number dropped down to 75,000 agents. And, today, you really can't find a person who will tell you that their profession is a travel agent. So if you're still a travel agent, time for you to start thinking about a new gig. And now cell phones, right? When's the last time you got a robocall on your cell phone? I get them every day. Thankfully, I have an app that tries to block it out. But when you get those calls or these solicitation calls, is the voice on the other end of the phone a real human? Or is it, this robot named Susan that begs you not to hang up? Telemarketing, which, in and of itself is a sales job, it's pretty nuanced and it should be interactive. But the experts are arguing that telemarketing isn't as nuanced and that reading a sales script doesn't require a high degree of social intelligence or interaction. So if you're a telemarketer and you're really good, start thinking about your next phase. How do you morph into another career? Start thinking about your next steps so you don't get left behind as technology, creeps up on us. Another job that is going to be disappearing, we still see them around and it just baffles me, are utility company meter readers. It just amazes me that here we are in the 21st century and people are still doing this 20th century task. Like we have computers, we have apps, we have smartphones, we have tablets. So it always baffles me that, they don't have trucks that kind of drive through neighborhoods that connect to, the different meters and, I don't even think you need a truck to drive around. I think it can just, phone home and say what your meter reading is. But, so people who are meter readers, you guys are on the chopping block. By the year 2022, there's going to be a 20% decline in meter readers. So that's 3 years from now. So if I meet you in 2023 and you tell me that you're a laid off meter reader, I'm going to clown you hard because for real, you have to see this coming. It is imperative that, no matter what your career is, that you read up on like industry magazines. You got to figure out what the industry trends are. If your industry has conferences, attend the conferences if you can afford it. And if you don't have the funds, if you can't afford to go to the conferences, or you don't have time to go to the conferences, you can still keep up. Some of these conferences will actually let you do like a virtual attendance, so you can go back and watch some of the some parts of the conference, or you can watch it live. But it's a good way to kind of keep up with what's going on in your industry, so you'll know kind of what exit to get off on and like what lanes to change. You don't want to get caught flat-footed. Another a job or a career that's on the decline, and no complaints from me. I'm a real sports fan, and for the most part I can't stand referees, but referees are definitely on the chopping block. The pay isn't great. The average full-time referee makes about $25,000, and but they take a massive amount of physical and verbal abuse from the fans. But it sounds crazy, but think about it. Every time you go to an arena, you look up on the big jumbo screen, and there's some, basketball player or whatever, event you're at, that tells you, not to throw stuff and not to curse people out. So, referees, they're really not, they're aging out, and young people are really not enthusiastic about replacing them. Still to come, we're going to look at some of the jobs that you should be thinking about in this 21st century.
It is Sean Prime from Inside the Loop with myself and Brenna B, and I've been talking about Jeans Body Tech for a minute, simply because it's a premier gym in a pristine spot without a premium price. All the weight you need, all the machines you want, free parking, all in Buckhead. Come on, it's crazy. 700 Miami Circle is where you want to work out today. And for those who are feeling a little bit down because you may not have followed through on the healthy New Year resolution thing, hey, it's still the new year. You can start today. Look at yourself a year from now, and hello, is that you? Because you're looking good, like snack-like. Yes, you are. 700 Miami Circle, or go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech, also known as JBT Fitness. Either way, $49 is nothing to pay to feel your best every day.
Hey, Dr. Phil here. I help people solve difficult problems every day, but one problem has me stumped: childhood hunger. Nearly 16 million children in America struggle with it. Luckily, the Feeding America network of local food banks collects surplus food, giving hope to hungry children and their families. But they need your help. Join me in supporting Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
My savings are gone.
Okay, where were they last?
Here, right before I spent them on that vacation to Aruba.
Weird. Not weird. Not saving now means no money later. For free ways to save, go to feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
People are always looking to invest in a good opportunity. So what if you could invest in the future of kids, like a stock? Not the kind of stock that's about making money, but a stock for social change, called Better Futures. With your investment, it helps students like me go to college. My name is Charles, and I'm your dividend.
Invest in better futures with UNCF. Visit uncf.org/invest. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, but a wonderful thing to invest in. Brought to you by UNCF and the Ad Council.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He guide us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
Wake up and text.
Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work. Sorry, I'm late. Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Me? Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
It is Sunday morning, and you are listening to and watching Financial Renaissance with the M's, and we are getting into the weeds. We're talking about careers that are been dying or that will be dying, and we're going to be talking about careers that are going to kind of, take off in the 21st century. So rounding off the list of careers that are going to be dying are mail carriers, the United States Postal Service, and there are this whole reason why they're failing, but it has to do with the government. So we're not, I don't think I've ever met a kid like in the last 5 or 10 years that you've asked, hey, what do you want to be when you grow up? And they said, I want to be a postman or I want to be a postwoman. We just don't hear that anymore. Also, retail jewelers, a lot of jewelry stores are closing. Millennials are not buying jewelry. They're opting for experiences, so the jewelry business is declining. And then the fast food industry. If you're still working at a fast food, in a fast food place, this is kind of your final warning. You have to learn how to do something else. Online, there's a website called Coursera, and you can actually take business classes, marketing classes. They offer all types of classes offered from Ivy League schools, and this is for free. So you can go online and learn, kind of shift into a different career if you want to, or you can go to reach out to the Department of Labor in your city and find out if they have like any job training classes that you can take. For fast food cooks, there is an 81% probability that a robot will be cooking your food tomorrow. Okay? In California, they have a robot named Flippy that's been flipping burgers now for about 2 years. So they, again, this is not a job where a human being actually needs to do it. It's something that a robot can do and just kind of assembly line it. And then people, if you're a cashier, self-checkout, they're perfecting the technology daily. So once they perfect it, being a cashier is going to be a thing of the past. So let's dive into careers of the future. So computer systems analysts, people who analyze data, they process problems, they try to develop and improve computer systems. Average salary is about $87,000 a year, and it does require a bachelor's degree. Another one also in the technology field is a software systems developer. They develop operating systems and network software, and their median income is about $106,000, but this also requires a bachelor's degree. Physical therapists, well, the older you get, the more you get in touch with physical therapy, but they help patients recover from illnesses or injuries. Median salary, $85,000, and this is going to require an advanced degree, a doctoral or a professional degree. We also have nurse practitioners. That their average pay is about $100,000, and their requirement is a master's degree. So there's a common theme here as we're looking at, jobs of the future. We're going to have to bump up our education level a little bit. Computer and information systems managers, they're making about $135,000. Okay, again, a bachelor's degree is going to be required. And then the people that actually teach Post-secondary, like health specialists, people who are going to teach, like dentistry or medicine or pharmacy. Those people make about $100,000, and what's required education-wise, again, is going to be a doctoral or some type of professional degree. And then we have my favorite, market research analysts and marketing specialists. Their median income is about $62,000, but they also require a bachelor's degree. And then we have lawyers, we have accountants and the auditors. And, again, these are going to require, a bachelor's degree or some level of advanced degrees. Same thing with physicians, but not like your primary care physicians. We're talking about specialists like cardiologists, anesthesiologists, surgeons. And their median income is going to be about $200,000. And of course, advanced degrees. Your financial managers, financial advisors, average income is about $121,000, but it does, of course, require a bachelor's degree. And then we have operations managers and general managers. They're going to, the average salary is going to be about $100,000 again, and it's going to require a bachelor's degree. Now, remember, $100,000 isn't what it used to be, 20 years ago. $100,000 today is getting by. Depending on the city that you live in. And then rounding off the jobs of the future, we're going to look at programmers, software application programmers. Again, average salary is about $100,000 and a bachelor's degree is required. And then the number one job for the future right now is an actual registered nurse, an RN. And average salary for registered nurses is about $68,000, and we're looking at them to also having a bachelor's degree or a specialized degree. So when you're thinking about, your career, when you're thinking about what do you do with, with your life going forward, you don't want to get caught flat-footed. When we look at what's happened in our country and we think about, the coal mines and the people that, are waiting for coal to come back, people in coal country, they got caught flat-footed. They didn't really see the changes or didn't realize that the changes were really going to impact them. Same thing with the steel cities. We've got lots of places in the Midwest and Pennsylvania where steel was like the number one thing, even the auto industry. And these jobs, as things start disappearing and the playing field starts changing, you have to take note. You have to pay attention to what's happening in the economy around you. You have to pay attention to what's going on globally as well so that you can figure out how to position stuff. If you have children that are, kind of wrapping up, getting ready to go to college, and, I hate when people ask teenagers or 18-year-olds, new adults, what do you want to major in? Like, they don't know anything, and the purpose of this last segment about, the jobs that are going to be flourishing in the 21st century is so that you can push your kids towards these jobs. One of the most painful things to see is, you tell a kid to go to school, they get a job, they're making X amount of dollars, but the amount that they're making isn't enough to pay their bills, isn't enough to pay back their student loans, isn't enough for them to, really support a family or go on vacation or do these things that, we should all be able to do, enjoy a nice standard of living. So you want to push your kids towards some of these careers that are going to flourish in the 21st century. Make sure they understand how computers work. It's not enough to say you don't understand. When we look at what happened with 4G, 4G was when, on our cell phones, things got faster, and then we ended up getting things like Uber, Lyft, Uber Eats, which is one of my favorite, like all these food delivery services, but it changed the playing field. Taxi drivers are really losing their way of life because of Uber and Lyft. And then there's something called 5G that's coming up. It's coming down the pike pretty soon. And that's going to, I can't even comprehend the changes that are going to happen with that. Is there some place that you can take advantage of so that you can benefit and grow or start a business and just really take advantage of the technology that's there. So those are just some of the things that, I really would like people to think about. Don't get caught flat-footed. If you have a relative that's in a career, one of the careers that I listed that's going to be dying, have that conversation with them. Talk to them about other options, getting trained. Like, it's not enough to say that you like what you're doing and you don't want to do anything else. That's just not the way of the world, You have to think about moving forward. If you don't move forward, you're getting left behind, period. So just some food for thought. Now, we're going to dig into this concept. It's a concept called universal basic income. And the country of Finland, they did an experiment in the year 2017, and they wrapped up in the year 2018. The government paid some people, it was kind of a test group, paid them about $1,000 a month, but there was no requirements tied to it. So if they were on welfare, they still got welfare. If they were looking for jobs, or if they had, if they were employed, no matter what, they just still got this $1,000. And they did this experiment. They were looking at ways to offset stress. They were looking at ways to beef up how people feel about themselves. A lot of times when people are unemployed or underemployed, their self-esteem is impacted. A lot of times when people are unemployed or underemployed, they take the first job that they can get just to put food on the table. And so this experiment was trying to see if, hey, if we give people just a little bit, again, $1,000 isn't a lot, but if we give them a little bit of money, what happens to people, or to a society at large? So when we come back, we're going to deep dive into universal basic income.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Major key alert. Life is like school. You will be tested, so pass it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by GetSchooled and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, fish dad.
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
This is big business. This is the American way.
Station Network.
See ya.
Here, back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. And you can follow us on social media on Twitter at M's Said It, EMMS, and Financial Renaissance on Instagram and Facebook. And then you can follow me personally at Emma Knows Money on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And thank you again for liking, and I see you guys watching, and makes me smile a little bit. You can also, in the comment section on Facebook at Sensation Station Network, you can throw a comment in there, or you can text us at 678-613-5857. And in the last segments, earlier we were talking about the jobs numbers, how we came in, grossly under budget, at 20,000 jobs instead of 180,000. And then we talked about careers that are dying. Careers like, again, if you're in a career that's dying, you need to start looking at other steps. And then we talked about jobs of the future, careers that you should be pushing people towards, or you yourself should be learning a little bit about, so that you can stay ahead of the poverty curve as we get into this 21st century. And then now, we are talking about a concept called universal basic income. And before the break, I mentioned that the country of Finland had conducted an experiment in 2017 for 2 years, 2017, 2018. And the study was conducted by the country's social insurance institution. And they wanted to look at variations of unconditional income as a way to offset job losses brought on by technology. So far, the only other large-scale experiment that we've had kind of in a Western nation is there was a province in Canada, in Ontario, where the participants were recruited in 2018 in April, and they were going to, start them in this universal basic income trial to see what would happen. But there ended up being a change in their government, and the trial got wound down prematurely. So, this means that really any solid data for researchers interested in how universal basic income works, right now the only country that they're going to be able to look at is going to be Finland. And so far, the academics have only finished studying the results of 2017. So it's possible that, once they finish studying the results from 2018, we're going to have some good data to talk about. A few weeks ago, we did a show which highlighted, and we provided facts. We were trying to sound the alarm that our country's in trouble. We all know it, we see it, we feel it. Our middle class is shrinking. Wage growth over the past 40 years has barely moved. And, don't let the Labor Bureau's data of wages being up last month 3% fool you. Wage growth has not in any way, shape, or form kept up with inflation. Our job numbers from February is another data point, that, again, I think people need to pay attention to, looking at what's happening with, 4G and 5G. So looking at the universal basic income, this is not a new concept at all. As a matter of fact, in 1795, in the English village of Speenhamland, they were challenged because they had an increase in poverty, even among people who were employed. Their social system at the time was known as the Elizabethan Poor Law. And what they did was they divided the grown-ups, adults, into three groups of people. Those who could work, those who could not work, and those, the idle poor who just didn't want to work. And lots of those people ended up getting sent to the Americas. But the able-bodied, disabled people receive work through, aid, local parishes. And the idle poor were kind of forced into labor, or they were rounded up. A lot of them were beaten because they were bums. So they wanted to look at a new system of trying to figure out how do we, get this economy moving? How do we give people some pride? And as grain prices increased, a lot of these parishes became overwhelmed with people that needed aid. And so what they decided to do was give a little bit of money to people, or in their case, it wasn't money, it was actually bread. And they gave people more bread than they necessarily needed. And for us, in today's terms, I want you to think about healthcare and the cost of healthcare. Grain back in the day was a basic necessity. Healthcare for us today is a basic necessity, but healthcare, we're like priced out of it. I read something the other day about a woman who picked up a stray kitten on the street, and the kitten bit her, and her hospital bill was $48,000. That's an expensive kitten. So the moral of that is don't pick up stray cats. So looking at healthcare today and looking at basic necessities, this province or parish of Spreenhamlin, them giving bread to the residents actually took hold, and it spread across England. Because what happened was people that had extra bread, they were able to sell it. And when they were able to sell it, they were able to buy into kind of other business ventures. And so it spread. And in 1834, the system ended. But like most things today, there are facts and then there's going to be alternate facts. But when we return, we're going to look at a listener's concern about this subject.
Some knowledge belongs to us and us alone. The way our girlfriends walk, talk, touch their hair. Details that only a sister can know about her girls. But what about our other girls? The ones we carry with us every day. Our bond with our sister girls gives life. But knowing your breasts can save it. Go to knowyourgirls.org for the facts you need on breast health. Brought to you by Susan G. Coleman and the Ad Council.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He guide us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
You want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then, because tonight we're gonna have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia.
Jerk Palace.
Don't just sing the song. Do it. And we're here to help with Smart Talk. From programs like this, your nation's urban station, online, on SSNATL.com.
You're listening to Financial Renaissance with the M's. We got a comment from one of our listeners whose mother is in real estate. And with technology and everybody doing everything online and with apps and wanting these virtual 360 tours of homes and things like that, well, what does her mother do if her mother isn't as, tech savvy? Well, my advice is you have to keep moving forward. And I know how difficult it is to get your parents to move forward. My mother still uses a flip phone. And then gets frustrated when she can't see our emojis and things like that. It is our job to move our parents into the 21st century. And the thing that I will tell you is you may not be able to tell your mom to do it, but your kids, if you have kids, your kids can get your mother to do it. Grandkids are great at getting grandparents ingrained and into technology. They'll learn how to FaceTime. They'll learn about Duo. They'll learn about all types of things on tablets as long as it connects them to their grandkids. And that's one of the ways of trying to, get them into technology. And if your career, and this is for, the listener's mom, if your career is changing, if the dynamics of your career are changing, you have to change with it, or you get left behind. So if people are doing more things on apps, you need to learn how to market yourself on these apps. You need to learn how to market yourself where your buyers are going to be. If you're looking at, middle-aged people, you want to do stuff on Facebook. If you're looking at millennials, you want to do stuff on Instagram or Snapchat. I don't know anything about Snapchat, but you have to pay attention to what's happening with the trends. You have to be a steward. You have to take what you do for a living very serious. You have to study it, you have to analyze it, you have to look at market trends, and you have to keep up. There are classes, lots of realtors, real estate brokers, they actually teach classes on how to keep up with, technology and things that can happen. So if for the listener whose mother is a real estate agent, I would say she needs to talk to her brokerage company and look at what tools they have or what classes they have to just kind of get her ingrained in what's going on today in the 21st century. Jumping back into universal basic income, before the break, I was talking about a little hamlet in England called Speenhamland, and their system ended in 1834. And like just about everything that's out there, there were actual facts, and then there were alternative facts presented about this. There were a lot of dissenters, but the dissenters went around and told lies about the program. But in our country, something, as I was doing my research, shocked me. Our former crooked president, Richard Nixon, he actually was trying to implement universal basic income here in the United States. He wanted to give money, about $1,600 a year, to a family of four that had zero income. So that would be about the equivalent of $11,000 today. So he wanted to give them, say $11,000 today plus food stamps, and then this supplement would phase out as earnings increase. And so in Nixon's mind, he wanted to lift the lower class, right? And then another thing that I found out, which is just kind of blew my mind, was that not only was Nixon thinking about this, they actually tested it in 5 times in 5 different cities, and it was head up by none other than Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld. And I believe George H.W. Bush was a congressman at the time. So, this crew of Senior Bush, Donald Rumsfeld, and Dick Cheney, they tried to implement this universal basic income. They did it in New Jersey with more than about 1,300 families. They did it in rural Pennsylvania. There was a control group of people who were living below the poverty line, and they weren't getting subsidies, so they were funding them. Then there was also Gary, Indiana. We talked about Steel Country. And then they also did it in Seattle and in Denver. And there was evidence that giving people money helped out significantly. Again, there's this thing in our country where we think that if we give stuff to people, they're not going to want to work for it. But that's not how the majority of Americans are. The majority of us are hardworking. The majority of us are innovative. So in the 70s, these trials kind of got, they got downplayed because Richard Nixon, as we all know, ended his presidency in glory, flaming glory, by having to resign because of some crimes that he committed. And, it kind of makes me wonder what would have happened. These experiments, they had a good start, and they were discontinued, and they were too short-lived to yield any definitive results because of what happened with the Nixon presidency. But here we have conservatives, like true conservatives, Republicans, who were looking at a way to lift the lower rung of our society out of poverty. And, these are conversations that we're, having again today, but they're being called socialist conversations, or they're being deemed as something evil. How will we pay for it? Not sure. How did we pay for the war in Afghanistan and Iraq? We still haven't paid for it. How did we pay for the George W. Bush tax cuts? Still haven't paid for it. How are we going to pay for the Donald Trump tax cuts? We have no idea. But we have to start having these conversations about what are we going to do to move our country forward. She's thinking that you give every adult, whether they're rich or poor, whether they're working, no matter what, you give them a stipend. And the stipend that they're looking at is somewhere between $1,000 and $3,000. And in her mind, she thinks that it's going to help people level up without taking money from the rich. Okay, so stay tuned. When we come back, we're going to dig into some of these practical thoughts on universal basic income.
Alexa, what's the weather?
When you go to the ATL, you never know what the weather will be. But when you go to ssnatl.com, summer skies, 365, plus an awesome mix of urban hits up in there. Can you feel that, buddy? All day, every day.
Yeah.
You don't know the power of the Sensation Network. The power.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
And we're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. One of the comments that came through was that Black Americans need to get involved in this tech industry. I wholeheartedly agree. I think all Americans need to get involved in the tech industry. Corporate America, again, is for a very, very small few people, is the way to economic prosperity. We talked, weeks ago about the amount of income that you need to make to be, comfortable, or the top 1% that's making about $350,000 a year. So looking at this universal basic income, in the United States, when you bring this concept up, people have like this visceral reaction. It's almost like saying the word liberal. The way people say liberal is like just this nasty disease. And for many, a government check to boost good times or to guard against starvation in bad times, it just seems like kind of a humane thing to do. I don't understand how people can think about what happened with the government shutdown, and how we had people that worked for the FBI that were on bread lines. I read that African Americans, the average balance in a African American's bank account is $11. Those numbers were released last week. So we're not wasting money. We just don't have enough. Wages aren't enough. So what are we going to do? There are people who think that universal basic income is a model of waste and unearned rewards. But in principle, a government fixes the basic income at a level that will allow subsistence, but also encourage enterprise. And that's what, one of our listeners was talking about, is that enterprising aspect of it. You'll be able to start a business if you've got your basic needs taken care of. If you can pay your light bills and you can put food on the table and you can pay your rent, then that gives your brain the ability to focus on something else. But if you're in constant survival mode, where are we going to be getting that innovation from? A lot of other countries are innovating, but this is America. We are a hodgepodge. We are the melting pot of the world. We're supposed to be the best. We have the best people here, but we need a break. We need the ability to be able to think beyond our basic needs. Okay, So in the United States right now, the supporters of universal basic income are generally proposing a figure somewhere, like I said, around $1,000 a month. $1,000 a month is enough to live on. You're not going to, it may pay rent. But depending on where you are in the country, that $1,000 is going to, impact you a little bit different. So there's this, in our country, there are a lot of people who truly and naively believe that everyone is starting from the same, starting line. And that everyone can pull themselves up by their bootstraps, because we're starting at the same exact line. But if you know anything about history, and not the history that you learned in school, if you look at the history of the kidnapped Africans in this country, we call them African Americans now. If you look at the Native American people, if you look at the history of different peoples in America, you'll see that everybody isn't starting from the same starting line. You think about Reconstruction. Think about, what happened after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated. Think about the Jim Crow laws. Heck, as I mentioned, last night we were at dinner, my wife brought up the fact that she remembers segregated beaches in Jacksonville, Florida in the 70s. I thought she was lying. I've called her a liar, but it was proven again last night by people that, so there's still a lot of baggage in our country. And it's not a situation where poor people want rich people's stuff. People just want opportunities. Nobody wants your stuff. Nobody wants your job. People just want opportunities. So on the way, we're going to be answering more of your questions and your comments when we return.
You use Tearless baby shampoo because it's gentle on your baby's eyes. You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You always test the bathwater to make sure it's not too hot. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You make sure she wears a helmet when she rides her bicycle. You put on his sunscreen, even when he's embarrassed his friends will see. You do so much to keep your child safe. But are you using the right car seat for your child? Is your child facing the right way in the car seat? Is the seat too big or too small? How do you know when it's time to move your child into the next type of seat? Car crashes are a leading killer of children ages 1 to 13. Protect your child's future at every stage of life. For information on the right seat for your child, visit safercar.gov/the-right-seat. That's safercar.gov/the-right-seat.
A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home walk restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
Finding best potatoes for French fries.
No!
Russet. Fingerling. Yukon Gold.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
No word in the English language is less convincing than probably.
Are you sure we should get matching tattoos on our first date?
Sure. We'll probably stay together.
Probably? It's been 23 minutes since I ate. I can probably swim.
You should wait 30 minutes.
Okay, now tell me what to do. Cannonball! Cramp! Oh, I have a cramp.
I can probably hit the green from here.
Probably.
Can I get a mulligan?
Ready to go?
Hey, are you sure you're okay to drive?
Yeah, I'm pretty sober. Yeah, I'm probably okay.
Probably okay isn't okay, especially when it comes to drinking and driving. If you're drinking, call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Already coaching? Everybody's a coach these days. I get it. Life coach, relationship coach, financial coach. But you want to be a coach with integrity. So get certified and do it the right way. Or add coaching to the work that you already do. Join a cohort or take classes at your own pace. We have knowledgeable instructors. We have a life-changing curriculum. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com to learn more.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
If you have the questions, we have the answers.
Right.
Go to ssnatl.com and click on the Contact tab. As much as you like. We're the nation's urban station. Online. ssnatl.com.
And we're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's, and we are shredding the theory of universal basic income. Still on the way, we're going to be talking about careers that can lead you to become a multimillionaire. We'll have more on that later. Hey, listen, I appreciate the love today, man. This feels great. I appreciate the comments. Keep them coming. Let's get into some of these comments now. One listener wanted to know about the $1,000, shouldn't it be used for savings or shouldn't it be used for, paying down debt? And there are some theories that what will happen with the $1,000, one, they don't want to have any handcuffs on the money. Okay, they really genuinely feel that people will do what needs to be done with the money. And typically what we're going to see happen, and there's some other experiments, people are going to pay down their debt or they will be putting money into savings. It's really just the dissenters, the people that don't want this to happen, that'll talk about the negative aspects of what will happen with this extra money. Another comment has to do with the rising cost of education. How does one obtain an advanced degree to keep up with these new jobs of the 21st century? And, unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that. What I would tell someone that doesn't have the means, and it's not an answer people are going to want, is to join the military. The military has a GI Bill. The military, you can get trained. A lot of the jobs and the things, we're not fighting old school wars anymore. Our wars are going to be cyber. Our wars are being fought with drones. Our wars are being fought differently. And if that was the way that our middle class was built, was because of the military and people that came back from World War II. That's what helped spark our middle class. So if you or someone in your family is having trouble paying for college, you've got to look for scholarships. You've got to look at these fraternities and sororities. They offer scholarships. You've got to look at industries. They offer scholarships. You've really got to do your due diligence. You've got to do your homework and maybe think about, doing like a community college for 2 years. There are ways to cheaply get the degree with the least amount of debt as possible. There are certain Ivy League schools that, if you have the grades and you can get in, some of these schools make sure that you come out with no debt. I know someone who went to Vanderbilt and they came out with no debt because the alumni helps to take care of their tuition. So there are ways. You just can't blanket look at, the high cost of education and just say, hey, I can't do it. You don't have a choice anymore. We don't have a choice. If you want a job where you're going to be able to take care of your family, unless you're a business owner and you're starting your own thing, and even then you need to get a little bit of, some business classes. You need to take some marketing classes, things like that. So education, while, I don't necessarily feel that getting a degree is for everyone, but you have to have some level of education. And like I mentioned, you can also go online and get the knowledge of an advanced degree or a bachelor's degree without having to pay for anything. As I mentioned, Coursera, and there's another one online where you can get an Ivy League education. Taught by Nobel Prize winning professors. Okay? So the education is there. It's free. The piece of paper might not be there, but the knowledge is there. And if you have the knowledge, you can do anything. Anthony Fowler also let us know that this universal basic income is looking at adding about 2.5 trillion to our economy. I'd have to see the numbers on that. I haven't really dug into the data because, again, we don't have good numbers to go by. It's all a lot of theory. And, you know, I have a theory that, you know, I was going to grow up and be a great basketball player, and, like, that just didn't happen. I have motor skill issues, and, you know, I have depth perception problems. So, you know, theories are just that, theories. We need to start seeing things that are proven. So some of the other places in the world that are trying out this universal basic income, again, they tried it in Canada a little bit, the Netherlands, Scotland, and Iran. Since 2017, there is a startup incubator in Silicon Valley. It's called the Y Combinator. And they funded a pilot program in Oakland, California. The municipal government of Stockton, California, they're an agri-industrial city, kind of east of San Francisco, and they're testing out the program that gives low-income residents $500 a month. And last year, Stanford launched a basic income lab to basically collect data and start this research. One of the program, the Northern California program, the reason for its popularity is also the reason for the urgency of its appeal. It is a futuristic response to the darker side of technology, okay, and robots. You know, robots are going to drive us from our jobs, so what are we going to do? So coming up, we're going to talk more about universal basic income, and then we're going to look at careers that are going to lead to millions.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win a Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He guides us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
Wake up and text. Text and eat. Text and catch the bus. Text and miss your stop. Wait. Text and be late to work. Sorry, I'm late. Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Me? Text and meet up with a friend you haven't seen in forever.
Hi.
Oh, hey. Text and complain that they're on their phone the whole time. Text and listen to them complain that you're on your phone the whole time. Text and whatever. But when you get behind the wheel, Give your phone to a passenger. Put it in the glove box. Just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Everybody successful lays a blueprint out. You laid the blueprint out. I stayed true to my dreams, and by doing that, eventually it came true.
A lot of times, it's like in life, right? Life brings like drama, and you got to deal with this person, and then you funky relationship here, and all these things. You try and just kind of balance them out as best I can.
Make a choice. Right? You just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way.
Everybody wants to be a beast until it's time to do what real beasts do.
Unleash your beast. Write your history.
And we're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. Thank you for the comments coming in. You can join in on the conversation at Sensation Station Network on Facebook. We are streaming live. Or you can watch us on ssnatl.com. And if you'd like to text us, you can pop out that two-way pager you have, and you can hit us up at 678-613-5857. And before the break, we were talking about universal basic income, some of the countries that are doing test pilots. We talked about what's happening in Northern California. But there's also a test pilot happening in a village in Kenya, in Africa. And the village will not be identified because they don't want it to be a target for thieves. So this pilot is being run by a nonprofit called Give Directly, and it's heavily funded through Silicon Valley. So this is more of a philanthropic thing, but again, they're going to be gathering data. So what happened is the Give Directly people sent everyone the equivalent of $22 US a month. And it was delivered through a mobile app. So again, technology is helping to advance and possibly eradicate poverty in certain areas. And in this village, they used to have, they had dirt roads. There were homes with no electricity. And what's happening is now this village is a bubbling pot of enterprise. Capitalism is taking root. The residents, they used to be all about survival. They used to, figure out how they were going to make ends meet. Now these people are saving money. They are budgeting, and they are also planning for the future. And this particular test case is the payments are going to continue with these people until the year 2028. So we're going to have a really, really good amount of data to decide, how we should move forward, not only as a country, but also around the globe, what needs to happen. So again, there are always going to be dissenters, and they're, really squeamish about, this socialist program. But are we helping people when they're really in need? Or are we making people feel less than when they're really in need? So a lot of these dissenters feel that, we're going to be giving junkies, drug addicts and the alcoholics and scam artists money. And, do we really want to hand these people monthly checks? And there's another country where researchers began giving $200 payments to drug addicts and criminals in a Liberian slum. And the researchers found that the money, it wasn't even squandered. Not only was it not squandered, it wasn't squandered on vices. The money went largely to living, basic living needs, and legitimate enterprise. People use the money to try to figure out a way to make money. It's like, giving people, teaching people how to fish. So there's the concept, we give you money, you're never going to learn how to take care of yourself. Sometimes giving people a little seed money gives them the ability to take care of themselves, and that's what most people want. Most people want to be proud about what they do People want to be proud that they can take care of their families, that they can provide for their kids, that they're leaving a legacy, for their namesake. So, again, a lot of these studies are, we're starting to get some pretty good data. And thankfully, we've got some business centrists, we've got, some Silicon Valley types that are really trying to figure out how to manage the technology industry side effects of low labor costs and the displacement of workers because of apps and artificial intelligence. There's a book by an author. This guy's name is Andrew Yang, and I thought he was running for president, but I haven't heard his name pop up. But he wrote a book called The War on Normal People, The Truth About America's Disappearing Jobs and Why Universal Basic Income is Our Future. And he just kind of has this theory, and it's a great read. I would go ahead and read into it. There's, I can shoot a couple holes in some of the stuff. And again, it's all theory, until something is actually done and we put the human element into it, nothing's necessarily going to go the way that we think. Elon Musk, Mr. Tesla, he thinks universal basic income is necessary. Sir Richard Branson, he thinks universal basic income is necessary because of the sense of self-esteem that a stipend of money provides to people. So, it's one of these things where we're really going to have to consider what makes the most sense. The current welfare system, which everybody hates. There are people that are taking advantage of it. We talk about food stamps, but I don't know if you know anybody that's on food stamps. They don't get a whole lot of money. And food stamps that come into people are not enough for families to live off of or realistically feed themselves. So another benefit of universal basic income is that the wealthy people can feel less guilty about the wealth that they have. If everybody gets kind of a start at the same starting block, then the affluent, they can be fine. And then there are people that are in the lower rungs of our economic society that will have an opportunity, that will be able to see the light, that will be able to do more. Think about the mothers, the single mothers that are out there that have to work several jobs. What if moms didn't have to work an extra job and she could be home after school with her kid and cook her kid dinner and make sure that they're not hanging out with the wrong people? There's a ripple effect of this. And there's also a humane effect of this. So yeah, we'll dip into this a little bit, and then we're going to look at some careers that you can consider if you want to become a multimillionaire when we come back.
So 5 tacos of cheese and a large soda, that's $10,012. Please drive around.
10,000 what?
It's obvious you're buzzed and driving.
I've only had a few. I'm fine.
Yeah, the food's $12, but getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates. Please drive around. Actually, just park and come in.
Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I opened the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Hi, I'm Viola Davis. Did you know that 1 in 5 kids in America struggle with hunger? Growing up, I was one of those kids. But we can solve this. When we make breakfast happen for kids in our neighborhood, we have the power to end childhood hunger, create bigger, brighter school days, and healthier minds and bodies. Go to hungeris.org and lend your time or your voice.
We're hungry for more.
A message from the Albertsons Companies Foundation and the Entertainment Industry Foundation.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything. I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor. If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth. Spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
You want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then because tonight we're gonna have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia. Jerk Palace.
Don't just sing the song.
I'm living my best life.
Do it. And we're here to help with Smart Talk. From programs like this, your nation's urban station, online, on SSNATL.com.
Back with Financial Renaissance. I am your host, Emma Folks, also known as Emma Knows Money. We were talking about universal basic income, and I'm going to add one other little factoid about universal basic income. And there's one element of it that really makes me want to give this a good old try. Like, even if you were to raise my tax dollars just a smidgen, I would be so for this. They're doing some studies right now, and they're looking at the fact that by giving just a stipend, just this universal basic income in whatever form it is actually reducing domestic violence. It's also reducing alcoholism, and it's reducing drug use in communities. So we need to shed this thought that people want something for nothing. People want to feel proud. People want to feel good. So when we're having this conversation, I know that it's kind of a hot button topic with AOC and in Congress and the Green New Deal, and universal basic income is one of the tenets of the Green New Deal, along with health care and some other stuff. And I would ask you whether you're a conservative, a Republican, a Democrat, a liberal, whatever the heck you are, an independent, libertarian, that you really wholeheartedly stop listening to the talking heads about universal basic income and actually do your own research and find your own thought leaders, people that you know are not skewed one way or the other, that they have no ulterior motive, that there's not some big corporation behind it, funding it, trying to say why it will or why it won't work. So do your own homework. You just Google it. Google Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld and universal basic income. Google Richard Nixon and universal basic income. We had people like Thomas Paine, founding father, who believed in universal basic income. We also had Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., who also felt that universal basic income was something that we should be looking at. So there are a lot of thought leaders from the past and the not so far away past, as well as in the present, and everybody's saying the same thing. Richard Nixon also talked about healthcare, and healthcare being a right for all Americans. And here we are, some 40, 50 years later, and we're still having the same conversations. Definition of insanity, doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results. Well, this is time for us people. This is time for Americans to look at what we're doing and how we're treating the bottom parts of our society. We're throwing them away or casting them aside because they don't have enough, and some of us are responsible for why they don't have enough. And again, they don't want what we have, they just want an opportunity to feed their families, to get their kids a great education, things like that. So keep that in mind, and remember, universal basic income, we're looking at it reducing domestic violence. Okay, that's huge, huge. So let's roll into one of my favorite topics, careers that's actually going to lead you to possibly become a millionaire. Last week, Monday, Roll Call released its annual analysis of the financial disclosure forms. I had mentioned that when I was talking about Donald Trump and when he was in how he inflates and deflates his assets. And Roll Call released, or they identified, the 50 richest members of Congress. And, keep in mind, this isn't an easy club to get into. In order to get on this list, you have to have a minimum net worth of $7.4 million. So let's think about this. Who has the most Benjamins in Washington? Is it Darrell Issa? Is it Nancy Pelosi? Is it Mitch McConnell? Well, for the second year in a row, Representative from California, repping San Diego, Westside, Darrell Issa, he tops the list with a net worth of about $350 million. Now, Darrell Issa, not one of my favorite people, but, hey, he was an entrepreneur. And you'll remember Darrell Issa because Darrell Issa had a car alarm. Remember the Viper? You're standing too close to my car. Well, that was his company, and he ended up selling that. Second on the list is Michael McCaul. He's sitting on about $117 million. And third on the list is Nancy Pelosi, current Speaker of the House, and her net worth is about $74 million. And then in slot number 32 is the Kentuckian Mitch McConnell. And I thought he had more wealth than this, but it looks like his net worth is about $11.9 million. So when we look at what it costs to win a seat in Congress, it actually costs about $10 million to win a seat. So it's no surprise that the wealthy and the well-connected are actually overrepresented in Congress. It's amazing to me, and even a Senate candidate from a couple cycles ago, Allison Grimes, she criticized Mitch McConnell for quadrupling his net worth, on the backs of Kentuckians. So when we look at what people are doing in Washington, and one of the reasons why people's net worths, increases, it's one of the few jobs you can have where you're going to make, a couple $100,000 a year. After your first year in office, you are guaranteed a pension. You have the best health care in the country. So if you have a child that's trying to figure out what career, what direction they should go in, go towards Congress, go towards Washington. The money is there. And as we've all seen this week with Paul Manafort, they don't prosecute you. If you get in trouble for white collar crimes, you get a slap on the hand. You get 4 years, you embezzle money, you sell state secrets, no big deal. We had some other senators, former Senator John McCain and also Claire McCaskill. They also had wealth, but their wealth, I think, had to do with who they were, more along the lines of who they were married to. Another thing that people in Washington do that the rest of us can't do, a lot of them do what's called insider trading. So they're on these different committees, and they'll find out, which industry is about to make a move. And what they will do is they will go and make stock trades based on the information that they received. And during the Obama administration, Obama had decided that these, people in Washington, Congress, Senate, that the stock trades that they made was going to be available and transparent so that we can see it on our computer. And of course, Congress and the lawmakers decided they didn't want that. So now if you want to see the trades that they've made, you actually have to go to some agency in Washington, D.C., and you literally have to go into the basement, open the file cabinet, and like look through papers to see what trades, some of these politicians have made. And insider trading is when it's against the law. If you remember Martha Stewart went to jail for insider trading. Her broker called her and let her know that something was happening with the company. She said, sell the stock, and boom, she, federal offense, she went to jail. But there are people, our lawmakers that are in Washington right now that are making a killing because of insider trading, and nobody pays it any attention. It's not top of the mind. The media isn't talking about it. Nobody's talking about it. But again, if you're looking at, hey, how do I amass wealth for my family and for my future, do your best to get into to become a congressperson or a state senator, and you too can have access to information. And again, I'm not about breaking laws or anything like that, but hey, when in Rome, do what these Romans are doing, and if they have found a way to shore up their families, you can do the same thing. So you get into Washington, and either you do the same thing or you change stuff and you level out the playing field. And I think that's what's happening with the this last 2018 election, that now we have more women, more people of color. The Washington is starting to reflect what America looks like as a whole. So there's some signs of life. So when we come back, we're going to have our Emma Knows Money segment, and we'll see you on the other side.
Indoor baseball, anyone?
Most party fouls are pretty dumb, but if you decide to drink and drive underage, you could lose your license and your freedom. Learn more at ultimatepartyfoul.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Already coaching? Everybody's a coach these days. I get it. Life coach, relationship coach, financial coach. But you want to be a coach with integrity. So get certified and do it the right way. Or add coaching to the work that you already do. Join a cohort or take classes at your own pace. We have knowledgeable instructors. We have a life-changing curriculum. Go to academyofcreativecoaching.com to learn more.
When I was little, I didn't talk for a long time. I was sensitive to lights and sounds, so I built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. Sometimes I do the same things over and over, until one day I found out I had autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org/signs. Brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then, because tonight we're gonna have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia. Jerk Palace.
We're more connected than ever before. 90% of America's students use some form of social media, but not all of it's used in a good way. Hurtful posts online are leading to social isolation for many. Psychologists say it's bullying in a brand new way. Well, Beyond Differences and I Keep Safe are looking to change that with ideas for students, their parents, and even teachers. Take the pledge to be kind online and learn more at wearekindonline.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designated texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
And so a new American industry has been born.
Sensation Station Network.
We're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's, and this is our Emma Knows Money segment. And today I'm going to be talking about 6 steps that are going to help you save. We're in March right now. Time for spring cleaning. Time to start doing some things a little bit different. And the first thing I want people to do is to track every penny that comes into your household. You need to know where every single dollar, down to the penny, where is it going? And I highly recommend you get one of those composition notebooks, old school, and write it down. Second thing is we have to start living below our means. If your take-home pay, like after taxes and all those other deductions, if your take-home pay is, say, $5,000 a month, figure out how to live off of $4,000 so you can use that extra $1,000 to save and for opportunities, business opportunities. And you want to look at, the third thing is starting small. So when you're looking at making cuts and doing stuff, creating a budget or a spending plan, you want to look for areas that you can cut back and tweak. And my recommendation is for this first month, this month of March, I would love everyone to look at figuring out where can you carve 5% out of your budget and put that towards savings. The fourth thing is set a savings goal. You know, my happiest savings goal was the first $1,000 that I saved because, you know, I finally had a comma. So come up with a savings goal that you want to accomplish, whether that's on a monthly basis or a quarterly basis. And then the fifth thing is to automate your savings. Make sure it happens repetitively, automatically. Having a specific amount, even if it's $25, even if it's $5, have a designated amount assigned to come out of your account and go someplace else. And then the sixth thing is make savings a priority. Okay? You have to make it a priority. And, you know, I'd love to hear from you. Let me know at the end of the month how things are going with your savings goals. This was Emma Knows Money.
Coming to Tampa Bay, I said we want to win the Super Bowl, and I believe we will.
From IamSecond.com.
We came close, but never really did win that championship.
Former NFL head coach Tony Dungy.
At the end of my 6th year, I was fired, and it was one of the biggest disappointments of my life. Next year, I'm in Indianapolis, get to the playoffs, but get knocked out again. And for the next couple of years, it's the same thing. Everyone is saying Colts are never going to win one. And I did wonder, why didn't it pan out the way I thought it would? But I determined that I had to have Christ first, and that everything else came below that, including my own desires. The next year, that ended up being our year to go to the Super Bowl and win it, and it was a wonderful feeling. Every decision I make, I'm going to make it through the lens of Jesus Christ, and He guides us to that ultimate victory. I'm Tony Dungy, and I am second.
I'm probably okay to have one more drink before I drive home. I'm probably okay. I open the window to stay alert. Probably okay. I just popped some gum in my mouth.
Step out of the car, please.
I probably made a mistake.
Probably okay isn't okay when it comes to drinking and driving. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend. Buzzed driving is drunk driving. A message brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Honey, what you cook for dinner tonight?
Do you want the good news or the bad news first?
The bad news first.
I cooked nothing.
Well, that's the good news then.
Uh-huh. Well, there's no bad news then because tonight we're going to have Jerk Palace.
Call Jerk Palace for authentic Caribbean cuisine, including vegetarian entrees with authentic Caribbean flavor. Call 770-892-5049. Located at 6221 Jonesboro Road, Highway 54 in Morrow, Georgia. Jerk Palace.
It is Sean Prime from Inside the Loop with myself and Brenna B, and I've been talking about Jeans Body Tech for a minute simply because it's a premier gym in a pristine spot without a premium price. All the weight you need, all the machines you want, free parking, all in Buckhead. Come on, it's crazy. 700 Miami Circle is where you want to work out today. And for those who are feeling a little bit down because you may not have followed through on the healthy New Year resolution thing, hey, it's still the new year. You can start today. Look at yourself a year from now and hello, is that you? Because you're looking good, like snack-like. Yes, you are. 700 Miami Circle, or go to facebook.com/Jeans Body Tech, also known as JBT Fitness. Either way, $49 is nothing to pay to feel your best every day.
Hi, I'm Danica Patrick. Watching my nieces grow, play, and learn is amazing, but not every child gets to be carefree. 1 in 6 kids in the U.S. are hungry. This breaks my heart, and it's something that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and gives it to families in need. To help, visit feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Deliberate dumbing down. Dumb down society.
Deliberate dumbing down of America.
Dumb down public. Why would they do this?
Sensation Station Network. Radio, not dumbed down.
And we're back with Financial Renaissance with the M's. I'm your host, Emma Folks, and my superpower is I have the ability to break down all things financial. You know, it's amazing. So today's show, we talked a little bit about the jobs reports numbers, and again, you need to pay attention to this number so you can figure out what's going on with our country. You know, are we still expanding or are we actually contracting? Jobs reports numbers for February came back at a dismal 20,000 jobs when 180,000 jobs were expected. Part of the reason for the jobs numbers being so dismal was the government shutdown. Then we talked about careers that are dying. We looked at mail carriers. We looked at fast food people. We looked at lumberjacks. We looked at, you know, several industries where the careers, they're just not going to be there anymore. We also talked about, you know, we had one of our listeners whose parent isn't keeping up with technology and it's impacting their job. And we have to keep moving forward with technology. We talked about some of the jobs of the future. We also hit on education. You know, a lot of these jobs of the future are going to require a 4-year degree. And, you know, how do you pay for a 4-year degree? I mean, it is expensive. This is not the 1970s or the 1960s where you could work full-time or work part-time and work your way through school. That's not the case anymore. So we're going to have to come up with different ways of figuring out how to get a 4-year education and not coming out of school with a significant amount of debt. So, you know, look at the military. You know, different military branches, different jobs in the military can pull you away from the front lines as long as you know you score pretty good on the ASVAB test. So it's something you can study for. But you want to do something that's going to keep you away from the front lines if at all possible. And then we jumped into a conversation about universal basic income. And we talked about where it got its start. And actually, Henry VIII had one of his advisors who brought it up initially, but I didn't have enough research to go on that. And then there was the England. They kicked it off with great results. The dissenters said that, you know, during that time, it really didn't work because with all the extra money, the population doubled. And the fact of the matter is the population doubled all over Europe. It wasn't just in England, and it wasn't just because of the universal basic income. It's just something that happened. You know, healthcare got better, a few other things got better, populations grew. And then we talked a little bit about, you know, the careers that you could go towards if you want to become a multimillionaire. One of the few careers in the United States where you can make a couple $100,000 and become a multimillionaire is to end up in Washington. You know, as a sitting congressperson or a senator, You can do something called insider trading, as long as you don't totally get caught. But, you can kind of get away with certain things. There's also companies that help fund your campaign, and you can do certain things with those dollars as well. So if you have a child that's really trying to figure out what to do with their career and they're politically minded, send that kid to Washington. And they can do one of the two things in Washington. They can take advantage of the opportunities that are there, or they can do like what a lot of these young people look like they're going to do, which is change it, clean it up a little bit. Our president was talking about draining the swamp, but I mean literally drain the swamp. There's a lot of old people there that don't even understand technology, which is why we're in the mess we're in right now with Facebook and a lot of these other companies. They have to go. If you don't understand technology, if you can't figure out how to protect our country, you got to go, okay? Vote them out. Vote for someone whose values are in alignment with you. Vote for someone who actually has compassion. They don't just say that they're a good Christian. Being a moral person is more than what you say. It's also what you do. And one of the previous shows, we talked about China and what's happening with China and their poverty. And we are not winning compared to China right now. China's middle class is booming. Our middle class is shrinking. And if our middle class is shrinking, what do you think is going to happen with the rest of the country? We're going to be just literally the haves and the have-nots. And that's not a safe space for anybody to be in. And then, on my M&O's Money segment, I talked a little bit about, 6 ways of easy ways for you to save. So you can start saving and for the month of March, just put some things in place. And, some of the other things we're going to be talking about in another couple of weeks is going to be the NCAA. They're talking about paying athletes. We'll touch on possibly Paul Manafort's case and, the slap on the hand he got, the 4 years. And then one of the funny things that happened this weekend, or that I heard this weekend, was R. Kelly was back in jail, but for back child support. And it just shocked me that people are still behind on child support. But, that's another thing. So coming up, we have Smooth Sensational Sunday, and then Connecting the Dots with Lee Watts at 4 o'clock. I'm your host, Emma Knows Money, Emma Folks, and thank you for joining me today.